I'm Steve Willis, co-founder of Hope Sheds Light. And on behalf of my partners, Ron Rosetto and Arvo Prima, we thank you for being part of our Finding Hope for Recovery family support meeting. It's really a joy to see everybody, as always. And thank you to our Facebook friends who continue to join us each week and share with us. We appreciate you. Before I launch into the introduction here, I wanted to share some very sad news, some personal news here. We've lost a dear friend, Susan Desch. I think many of you knew her. She's a wonderful volunteer for Hope, a dynamic and amazing woman in her own right. The wife of Roger, and together they have done some wonderful work at Discovery Institute and also a sober living house. I just wanted to express my love for her and for Roger and the family. I know you share, my sentiments that way. She will certainly be missed. There is a memorial for those of you who would like to attend. It's Saturday, July 27th at 2 p.m. at the Emmanuel Community Church. That's at 331 Wheaton Avenue in Bayville. And I know Roger put this on Hope's website when we expressed our condolences. So for any of you that want to check those details, please go there. And I hope you join us, in tribute of Susan. So for those of you who are new, and again, I love seeing so many, Hope, let me tell you about Hope. It's a family-focused nonprofit agency. Our mission is to raise awareness and to educate individuals and families in the community about the impact of addiction by having the courage to share our personal experiences, by sharing our strength and wisdom, and by offering hope and resources that lead to the long-term recovery of the whole family. What we want to do is to remove the fear and stigma attached to this disease. We do that by offering a hopeful and loving and supportive environment, all designed to help families heal and lead to the well-being of the entire community. And this Finding Hope for Recovery meeting we started is designed to do just that. This meeting meets on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month in the beautiful Holy Cross Lutheran Church where we are. The first and third Tuesdays we have our Finding Recovery for Life support meetings. That follows a little different format than this. That's a group learning type of format. It's a lot of fun. We introduce topics that are designed to cultivate strong recovery practices in the family. Every other Monday, we have family support meetings in Red Bank, which I'm really proud of. And we have a grief group that we have every Thursday for those who have lost a loved one to addiction. All of these meetings are open to anyone that's been impacted by addiction. Our prayer, our hope is that by us sharing with you and you with us, you'll have the courage to change the way you think and feel about addiction and become much healthier in the process. The format tonight, we start with an educational piece. We are blessed with very talented friends from the community in this field that share ideas, share concepts about prevention, treatment, and recovery. That's about 45 minutes, and after that we break out into groups where we talk about what we've heard, and importantly, learn ways to take care of ourselves so that we can get stronger in our own recovery journey. So again, we're thankful. I'm always grateful to be able to share with everybody. Thanks for being here with us tonight. With that, let me introduce our speaker. Is Sue Conte. She's from Advanced Health and Education, a very dear friend, and a very, very talented woman. So please welcome Sue.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for welcoming me back. This is an amazing organization, does tremendous work, and I do want to also mention that the Recovery Walk is coming up in September. September 7th, so be on the lookout at Seaside Heights Boardwalk. It's amazing. Lots of recovery, lots of folks, and Sprout is happy to be a sponsor of that as well. Tonight we want to talk about building support networks, and I think there's a few different components that go with that. So before we talk about building networks and building support, I want to talk about understanding addiction just a little bit and looking at the characteristics. So, I've spoken here before, and I love seeing familiar faces because I love when people keep coming back and sharing their experience. So, I talk to the audience, and Hello to all the folks watching that couldn't make it out, and I hope you get your power restored for those who don't have it yet. So, let's talk about what are some characteristics of addictive behaviors.
Crazy.
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 I like it. Crazy. Number one, crazy.
Obsessive.
Obsessive. Did you read my note? Because I have a note today. Obsessive. Good. What else?
Anxious.
Anxious. Yes.
Self-centered.
Self-centered. We're going to table that. Is it? Is it not? The question. Impulsive? Okay, so I think some of those characteristics then lead to other behaviors that really have a negative connotation, right? Lying, right? Is that kind of a given? So we're talking about addictive behaviors. Are we talking about drug and alcohol addictive behaviors? Everyone's quiet. Are we, yes, no? Sure. Are we talking about codependent addictive behaviors? Same thing. Okay, so we have that down pat. I think they're very similar. I think one of the few differences are physical cravings. And so I think having a good understanding of, and there's some folks looking confused thinking, what do you mean lying? What do you mean impulsive, obsessive? And, I go to Al-Anon meetings and I go to support groups, and I think it takes a really long time to have an understanding that it really is about you, because you're going to the meeting so you can better help the addictive person, right? That obsession really kind of lingers, I think, for many folks. So it's important to understand we encourage them to go to support groups and go to meetings, and they're trying to get acclimated and they're trying to build a network, but it's a struggle all the time because they have obsessive thoughts and they have impulsive behaviors. Wow, this feels good. Let me do it right away. Let me react to that. And somewhere in the back of my head, I'm constantly still thinking about this. And it's okay. See, if it's not really a lie, if you believe your own lie. See, if you think that you're telling the truth in some way. And so we kind of match that, really, and put that on the person that's using substances. But let's take a look at the family. Are they not doing, how's everything? Absolutely fine. They're doing amazing. Are they? How are you doing? I just had this great sale at Lord & Taylor last week. I'm doing amazing. Are you? What's going on the inside? And are you obsessively thinking of how you're going to help them? Well, I'm good now. I haven't checked my phone in 30 seconds because I have a tracker, and I'm going to know because I need to know. We become this controlling, obsessive, impulsive. I need help. Okay, I'll be right there. Or I'm going to set a really hard boundary. I'm not going to pick them up. Can you? So we still kind of have those behaviors. I'm not going to do it, but they can. I didn't do it, but I just kind of gave the information knowing someone else will. I think it takes a long time for both parties, right? The person that's using and the family member to really get to a place where it really is all about me. And we say self-centered because some of the action looks self-centered. The irony is, while it appears self-centered, no one's feeling good on the inside. And no one feels good about themselves. And what you feel good from is, so the person using feels good from the substance, right? Because that's amazing. Maybe not long term, but it does, which is what allows them to continue. So what about the family members? Or, yes, professional in the field. I professionally now made a living out of helping other people and feeling good about it, So there you go. How's that for a twist? Just make something positive out of it. So you help someone else and that feels good. I'm supportive of them and that feels good. That's a little self-centered too, because while you're helping them, but it's really about feeling good for you. How do you really feel about you, and what is a relationship with yourself? And I think both folks need to, both the person that's an active user and the family member need to really develop a relationship with yourself and figure out who you are and what you like and what you don't like. And I think that takes a long time. And a great way to do that is for each person to build their own independent support network. And maybe that takes a long time, maybe it takes a little time, I don't really know. Recovery, and I hear folks use the term now frequently, long-term recovery. And I don't really know what that is, because I don't think it's an amount of abstinent time. I definitely think it's about a strong process of developing a very strong relationship with yourself, right? And feeling good, really to the core, about who you are. How many folks are in that process? Good, there's goodies in the back. There's goodies for you on the way out. And the folks that haven't begun the process and would like to begin that process, there's goodies for you too. It's important for you to genuinely develop internal. Self-esteem is a hard thing because you can't measure it. You don't know if somebody feels good about themselves or not. And family members are usually the masters at hiding that. They can just look fabulous and they make sure they're all perfect and they give this good presentation and they're all smiling. And sometimes it's completely the opposite of what's happening. So only you know how you feel about yourself, and no one else could ever really know that. They are only going to know what you tell them, but you know how you feel. Developing a support network helps that to happen for both the person that's using and for the family member. All of us as human beings want to feel validated. We want to know what we're feeling is just okay. And we can say that, yes, what you're feeling is okay. Feelings just are. And you can get a lot of education and you can get it drilled into your head, but does it really sit with you? You know? And how do you apply it? So I practiced a lot of things in the last 24 hours thinking, I definitely want to practice what I preach. So I did a few things. I have been doing public speaking for well over 25 years. And today is one of few times that I actually brought a cheat sheet note. You know why? Because it's okay to ask for help. And I have said infrequently, take my advice because I don't. I can give the greatest advice. I can spout off, well, I can't tell you what to do, but here are some options, and I can sound amazing. And do I apply it myself? So I had to really reflect the last few days, really in preparation in this honor to speak to you and think, am I really practicing all those things? A few days ago, really by genuine accident, I left my watch at my friend's house. Now, I've worn a watch every day. I think it's a generation thing, probably since I'm at least 12 years old, maybe younger. And yes, I wear it for time, not decorative purposes. I think the younger generation wears it like a piece of jewelry. No, I use it to tell time and not my phone. So I've been without a watch for a few days, completely lost. Completely feeling really very off. And I thought, well, that's a lesson that I have to take a look at. How open to change am I? How willing to change am I? But I can say that every single day to lots and lots and lots of folks. And so do I practice that? And can I do that and still feel good about myself? So it's important to feel good about yourself or developing that and increasing that while we're developing support. We want to feel validated. We want to feel like somebody is really saying to us, I not only heard you, I listened. And I'm going to somehow communicate and give to you that what's happening to you and how you're feeling and your crazy thoughts, because they're crazy, are really just okay. And maybe they're gonna stay there for a little while, and maybe it's gonna clear and you're gonna be okay. But it is, for this minute, it's okay. And you're gonna be okay. We need that. We need that as human beings in every aspect of our life. But if we're all having that lying, everything's fine and I don't need to ask for help and I can do it and I can figure it out, right? Or we have the person who's actively using, telling some fibs and doing some things and sort of isolating in that way, and we're never going to get that validation. We're never going to get that reinforcement. We're never going to feel like whatever's happening right now is just okay for this minute. So we need that. So how do we build support networks? So I will tell you, just today, in coming in this church, I've learned of 2 new meetings that are available. I learned there's the development. I don't know if it's out yet. Is it out yet? The online?
Yes.
It's online?
Mondays at 7:30.
Mondays at 7:30 for chronic illness. So with folks for chronic illness that need support, that really can't get out of the house, I learned that, and I think that that's amazing. And it's FaceTime, right? It's live interaction, so you get to see people, so you can build that supportive network if you're unable to leave the home. I learned about that today. I wanted to share it with you. I think it's amazing. I also learned, Steve mentioned, a list of support groups available, and I learned on Thursdays of the grief support group, and that was new information for me. It's important to share resources. It's important to know what's available. It's important to find the group that works for you. It's important to get a sponsor, right? We say that to folks that are, you need to get a sponsor. Did you call your sponsor? So I say to family, did you get a sponsor? Did you call your sponsor? Are you really focusing on you, like really you? Well, that would be selfish. Or, we say, well, I'm doing what's selfish, what's selfless? I mean, how really are you feeling about yourself? And are you really taking care of yourself? So only you know that. It's important to build those independent support groups. Sober living, for me, in the last 10 years or so, is a very newer concept from the treatment industry that has become more and more and more popular. I mean, I think they've been around longer than that, but I think that it's really become a necessity for some folks to learn independent living skills, to be with peers, and to get constant validation. Not that the family's not giving them validation, or that feeling, but it's important. We have a very large group of younger individuals who need support from one another, who need to rely on one another. And so they have family and parents sort of coddling them, taking care. Yes, I said coddling because some folks are. Some parents are too strict, some parents are over. I find, just in my experience, dads are usually very enabling, because different than being supportive to their daughters, and moms are, typically more apt to do that with their sons. Just my experience, not saying it's 100%, just putting it out there. And so, we look at treatment modalities and, in every level of care. I mean, my organization has every level of care. So there's, detox, residential, partial care, IOP, OP, and at any given time, even at the detox level, I'm good, come pick me up. Where the girls start crying, going, Teddy, I'm ready. And they, okay, honey, I'll be right there. I'm just going to say hello. I'm not going to bring her home. How do you think that's going down? Really? Or the moms, okay, honey, I'll come get you, wash your clothes. Who's tying your shoes? Maybe you need to be independent. So there's a lot of coddling going on. I think just my experience and my opinion come from a lot of different things. It's a completely different world now, from my age, and yes, I'm showing it. Households typically require multiple people to work full time. they're not as available being home. Everything is amped up. Homework is to the nth degree, and you're required to get a college, likely a master's degree, to even be considered for many professions. That didn't happen in prior generations. It was just okay, and it's not now. There's just this pressure to do everything, and sports are like insane crazy. You know, they're so competitive. They're so, the practices are so intense, and so we have all this guilt of we're not really spending quality time. But I think that those are a lot of factors. Or, school's expensive, so you have folks with college degrees who genuinely can't get jobs. And how does that feel? Like, I'm very well educated, I did all the right things, and now I'm still kind of stuck. And so I think for this generation versus a few generations back, we look at a particular given chronological age and say, you're married, had children, and self-supportive, and yet now you're just starting out and struggling of where are you beginning? So I think it's very different. So I think there's a lot of different factors, and I think we're all educated. We're trying to become more educated as far as substance abuse and what's available and how we can make better decisions, but it's rampant, and I think the support groups come into play because how do you apply it? Are you applying it? And do you have somebody saying, I know you're doing amazing, but you're kind of full of baloney because I think that you're doing better, and I don't want to take that away from you. I want to tell you all the progress I think that you're making and that has been made, but I also think that, there's stuff you still need to work on and you're acting like you're kind of cured. Maybe you need to take a look at that, both for family members independently and for the person that's using. Support groups will give you that connection where you have that closeness, where somebody can say that to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's important to develop independent support networks. Sober living can be an amazing environment where you have many people in the same house, kind of in different places, but supporting one another all at the same time. Educate yourself. The differences between Oxford houses are amazing. Oxford houses are self-run, so someone self-supporting, so the folks in the house run the house. So I would imagine folks going there would typically have a little stronger recovery and a little more abstinent time. A sober living house typically has staff still in the house that monitor the happenings all the time and have probably stricter rules. So there's different things. There's halfway houses where there's a treatment component attached in the housing component all at the same time, and typically those are longer term. I suggest looking at these different modalities because I think that we know longer term treatment has proven to be more effective, right? Longer exposure in a recovery supportive environment has proven to be more effective. And I say this because we're at such a chronic relapse stage that we're struggling to find what's happening and when do we intervene and when do we not intervene. And then so only independently, when both the person that's using and the family member have really built a very strong support network, then it's only then that the family comes to work together. Because you almost have to reintroduce yourself as to who you are. Because at that point you've become really both very different people. The family has become very different too. And so just like we go to extremes sometimes because of the obsession, because of the impulsivity, sometimes we have to go to an extreme before we come back and find balance in ourselves. So we have both folks trying to do that, right? So we're over here, they're over here, now we're both clashing in the middle, right? It's like a pendulum, and you have to find the balance, right? Families just coming in. And I think that there are folks here that have been coming a while. There's probably newer folks. What is it like when you hear somebody saying, I set a boundary, I'm never talking to them again. They're going to pay for what they did. And you do. You have a lot of emotions. You have all the stages of grief, right? So you're very angry. What do you mean you're never talking to them again? Like, they genuinely need food money, and they're kind of doing okay. Like, can you take them to lunch, or can they come to your house for dinner? Absolutely not. I'm setting a boundary. You know, and you go to this crazy extreme, you know? So there's a middle ground that you find, as opposed to, you know, well, I'm better now. I'm setting boundaries because last week I was like driving them around, you know, right? So I'm stalking their phone and see, I didn't check it in 5 minutes, you know? So we go to these extremes, but there's a balance, and it's really it's very difficult for me to verbally define for you, but there's a difference between enabling them, you know, and really genuinely supporting them. So I think that that's going to be different for everyone, and I think the process is going to be different. It's important to know that addictive behaviors become more intense through a process. It didn't happen overnight. It feels like it happened overnight, and sometimes we're so unaware. It feels like a ton of bricks where this came out of nowhere, and it really did. I know everybody else says it didn't happen, but it really did for me, because I am unique and special. But it really is a process for sure. So the recovery process for each of the individuals, both for the family and for the person using substances, is a process. So it's important to develop a really strong network and continue to look at resources and still figure out a way, whether it's treatment for the family, you know, individual therapy, whether it's family therapy, and for the person using substances, there's a variety of different modalities for treatment for that. Treatment, for me, is very different than building the support network. Sure, your treatment modality is supportive, but it's not a support network, because treatment is time limited. It all is. Nobody should be in therapy for 20 years. I don't think so. You know, I'm sure people are going to be signing in, yes, you should. I don't think so. I think it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I think that you ought to get better. So it shouldn't be this ongoing, well, we've reached these goals and now we're going to have new goals. Now, for the person using substances, maybe more things come up and that process is longer. Maybe for us, things come up, our parents, right? All sorts of stuff can come up that can interfere, and it molds us who we are. So we kind of embrace some of those things, we accept some of those things, and some things we just say, I'm not going to deal with them right now. And maybe I'll come back to that at a future time, and that's okay too. So, but there should be a beginning, middle, and an end. So treatment is supportive, but it's not a support network, because you definitely need the go-to phone call. I had a bad dream, 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep. It was so horrifying, and I haven't had that dream in 10 years, and it brought back all these feelings and all these things, and I want to call somebody, or maybe I want to text somebody, or, you know, ironically, there's 10 more people feeling that same way, going, hey, glad you called. I thought I was the only one up at 3 a.m. and only slept 2 hours a night, you know. Just FYI, there's a lot of us out there. So you need that connection. You need to have fun. You need to be silly. Did anybody see that new movie yet? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? I'm trying to see it. Came out this week. Quentin Tarantino came out this week. I'm giving it the plug. If you saw Pulp Fiction, you like Quentin Tarantino movies, I haven't seen it. It's on my list. Do some fun things. Who watches bad TV? I watch really bad TV. I only watch like an hour a week, but I watch really bad TV. It makes no sense. It's the trashiest shows. Why? Right? Because, and I get my world news on 104.3 on the radio on my drive to work. That's the world news, whatever's happening on that station. It's okay. You need some balance. Who's doing something fun tonight? Because you're all getting homework. Oh, okay, good. We have beach balls in the back. We're going to be giving them out for you. So it's important to develop these independent, sober, embracing, right, and validating support networks for both the family and the individual, and then come together. So I'm not saying don't have contact with each other, but coming together is going to be a challenge. It's a brand new relationship. So define relationship. It's relating, having a commonality. We don't even know what the commonality is anymore. So we're going to have to rediscover what that is, because they're completely different. They've developed all their own new likes, dislikes, and so have we. And we're going to have to very clearly talk about our expectations to each other. So we say, if you stay in my house, these are the rules. They are, because it's my house. Sorry, you lived on your own, and those were the rules. This house has these rules attached. These are very clear expectations. They need to have clear expectations too. You're not stalking me on your phone anymore. You'll know where I am, and my behavior will demonstrate it. I will abide by your curfew. I will do these things, right? But so there has to be some negotiation, which maybe hasn't happened before. That was always, this is the hard rule, or yes, you can do anything you want, right? So now there's some negotiation to develop and clearly talk about the expectations. And as new things come up that weren't verbalized, to talk about them directly together, not third party, not have everyone in the middle. Well, you should have known better. Think about even marriage relationships. Sometimes we're clearly not talking about expectations. Who's doing the laundry? Who's taking out the trash? Right? Sometimes it's not verbalized, it's understood, and sometimes it's a misunderstanding. I love doing the laundry. I really don't like vacuuming, you know? Let me just put that out there. So if you assumed vacuuming was on my list, probably not gonna happen. So that's just an example. We assume sometimes. And so now we have these two very new relationships coming together. That's a lot of work. It doesn't sound like a lot of work because you're thinking they're only in treatment for 60 days. I don't even know what you're talking about. But really, that's the evolution of really what happens in building two strong independent relationships for the family, for the folks using, and really coming together and really pulling it all together. So I'm going to wrap up with that because there's a meeting scheduled after that. So after this, we do have some more information in between, if you, quick break before the meeting begins. And thank you again for having me here. It's my honor, and I hope to see you all again. Thank you.